Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Board With Each Other, the board gaming podcast that reviews board games to see how well they play at two. Whether that's playing with your partner or with a really good friend or with that person on the council that just will not grant you planning permission for your third skyscraper. I'm Al Simpson and I'm joined as ever by my player 2 and co-host, Hannah Kelly.
Hi guys.
And today we are going to be reviewing San Francisco.
Meanwhile, in San Francisco...
Room joke, for those that will get it. San Francisco is designed by the incredibly prolific game designer Reiner Knizia, I want to say. Maybe the K silent, I don't know how to pronounce his name. And in essence, it is a city builder, tableau builder, card placement sort of game.
Tableau's a fancy word.
Tableau is a fancy word. Where you are essentially building the city of San Francisco. The game is played by each player taking a player board, and the player board is divided into, five different coloured districts. And the object of the game is to fill those districts with cards that you pick up from essentially what is a marketplace. The turns work where you can either pick up a card and place it into one of three slots. Three lanes as such, yeah, that's a good word for it. So you can either place it in an empty lane or you can place it on the same lane as another card and they sort of stack.
In the marketplace.
Yeah.
Point out.
Within the marketplace. Or you can take a lane of cards. Whenever you take a lane of cards, no matter how many are in there, you take a contract token. And you can only take from a lane that has more cards in it than the number of contract tokens you hold.
So if I had 2 contracts, I could only take a stack of 2 or more cards.
3. You have to have less than. Whenever all players have at least one contract, everybody discards one. So it's a bit of an odd mechanism, but say there was a lane of cards, I picked it up, I took a contract, and then on the next turn Hannah did the same thing, we'd all go back down to 0 again. What happens is if the same person keeps taking lanes of cards turn on after turn, they start to stack up their contracts, and that kind of sort of prevents you from taking more, kind of freezes you out until other people start taking stuff.
It's a balancing mechanism, basically.
Yeah, it's a balancing mechanism. In terms of points and winning the game, you gain points through a number of ways. You either gain points for filling up one of your districts first. Mm-hmm. Each district card has a number of little worker people on it. It has a value. At the end of the game, whoever has the highest value of those workers in each of the 5 rows gets more victory points. There are also cable cars, so some cards have cable car tracks on them, and if they link up to the depots at the start, which are all at the bottom at the start of the game, you then add a cable car onto that card.
Are they not trams?
No, they're cable cars. San Francisco is really famous. Well, they are like trams, but they're called cable cars, but they're more like a tram. Yeah, confusing, okay. I know. Croydon didn't do it first. The person with the most cable cars at the end of the game gets more victory points. There are also cards which have skyscraper foundations on. And those cards, once you place them on your grid, and when you place cards on your grid, you have to place them on the leftmost. You can't sort of pick anywhere on the grid. If you surround that card with 7 workers, you get to place a skyscraper. They are worth a victory point at the end of the game. And whoever has built the most skyscrapers gets the Master Builder's Medal, which is also worth a victory point at the end of the game. To take it off somebody else, you need to build more skyscrapers than them. So it's sort of this push-pull mechanic with those. The game continues until either one player's board has been completely filled up, or you have drawn the requisite number, and it changes depending on how many players there are. The requisite number or foundation tokens have come out onto the lanes as such, and the game just ends immediately. The only other little wrinkle to the rules is some cards have a little compass symbol on them. And if you get 2 of those in a row, you get that district specified bonus. So there are things such as a token that lets you add 2 to the worker value of 1 card. You can get some cable car tracks to extend your cable car network. You can just get a token that's worth more points. They vary depending on the district. And that is pretty much it for the rules, unless you think I've missed anything.
No, there are some cards that can be placed anywhere. They're colourless.
Yes, there's black
wild
cards.
cards.
Are wild cards. They can be placed in any row.
But aside from that, it's pretty much it, really.
Yeah. Okay. Playing time, 15 to 20 minutes.
Yeah, if that.
Yeah, depending on how quickly you go through. So quite a short game.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else you want to say on it?
No, I suppose we kind of picked this up as a whim. So for those of you that are in the UK and are listening, game.
It was the game. The Games
sale.
Gone Mad sale that happened in April 24. Long may it live in the memory. Yeah,
It happens fairly regularly, in all fairness.
Yeah, this one was pretty major though. For those that don't know, Game is a bit like GameStop in the US. If you're listening in the US, and they have expanded their repertoire due to necessity into board games. And in April this year, they just sort of seemed to lose the plot and just discounted like 90% off a load of board games. So of course every board game in the country just went down there and just filled their boots, which I did as well. Yeah, so I just bought loads of stuff really, and this was one of the things that came out of that.
Yeah. So if you're in the UK, check out Game.
Yeah, always a good idea. So shall we go on to scoring? Yeah.
So under our general category, first up is components. So I'm going to start.
Okay.
The skyscrapers are a nice touch. So the skyscrapers are built out of cardboard, and you have to
3D models.
And you have to combine them, and that's quite cool, and that's quite nice. So when you actually finally complete your skyscraper on your foundations, because you've got enough workers surrounding it, you can dump down this big old skyscraper, and that's kind of cool. That's probably where my compliments end.
Yeah, fair enough.
The insert for the box is infuriating.
Okay, you really hate this insert.
I really hate the insert. So the insert for the box has got nice little sections, so you can put your cards and your tokens, of which there are an awful lot of tokens. You have contracts, you have foundation tokens, you have points tokens, all of which, your points tokens, most of which you won't use because they're only applicable to games when you play a certain number, three or four players. So you basically have 3 times the amount of tokens that you actually need to play the game. And because the insert is made out of cuts and folding bits of cardboard, it means all your tokens slip under the insert and you have to yank out the whole of the insert in order to find them, unless you put them into baggies, which obviously we did. But it's just really annoying.
Yeah.
It doesn't need baggies, but it made me put baggies in.
Yeah, it didn't come with baggies, but we had to because we just kept losing stuff underneath the insert, which was a real pain. On a more general sense, it's all fairly flimsy in budget. The cards are small, they're fiddly, and they are possibly the thinnest card stock I've ever seen without being actual paper.
Because you have a player mat, if you like, your tableau.
Your player board, yeah, your tableau.
And you place your cards on top of them. If you sneezed, you would lose your entire city.
Yeah, there's no weight to these cards whatsoever.
Yeah,
they are very,
none whatsoever.
very, very flimsy.
Yeah, a misplaced elbow or something would wreak havoc with your game.
Goes flying. You've got little cable car meeples, which are fine. You sound like wooden meeples. There's nothing wrong with that. I have a quite personal criticism of it, is I really don't like the look of it. I am a person that is allergic to pastels.
Yeah, it's all pastels.
And it's all very, very pastels. And I'm not colourblind in any way, shape or form, but my brain struggles with differentiating a couple of the colours in the district colours.
And particularly your colourless ones as well.
I haven't got a problem with those. It's the light yellow and the brown that I just seem to be interchangeable on mine. And I often make mistakes because I'm reading one as the wrong thing.
And I think because they don't stand out, when you're there filling up your board, it's quite easy to mistake, because your board obviously has its 5 lanes, each with different colours, and then you put your corresponding colour on top. It's not always immediately apparent whether your lane's full or not. So sometimes I have to study my board a bit harder than I would like.
Yeah. And
it's just not as easy as it could be.
No, it's not as easy as it could be. And it looks both too busy and too plain at the same time, if that makes any sense. If I'm building a tableau and I'm placing things down, whether it be tiles or cards or whatever, I want it to kind of look a bit cool at the end of the game. This just looks like a hot mess.
Yeah, and there's nothing particularly special about any of the cards either. So they do have sort of relatively thematic. So the blue one is the beach theme, so you've got like a parasol or whatever, and a harbour or whatever. But the cards themselves are all also fairly generic. We talk about a lot of card games where there's devil in the detail, aside from having your compass, which allows you, if you have 2 of your compasses, you get to score a bonus, the cards just have different numbers of workers on them. They don't really do anything special.
There's nothing exciting there. And the art style is just very, very flat.
Oh, it really is,
yeah. It's just sort of a bit dull, a bit flat, and I just think they could have done something a little bit more fine.
But your skyscrapers also have lollipop trees either side of them.
They do, yes. So,
skyscrapers are really cool, guys.
Yeah, the skyscrapers are cool. They are cool. But yeah, everything just looks a bit chunky as well. Even the cardboard counters for the scoring and what have you. It's just
the hexagons and circles. I mean, they're perfunctory. They do their job. Yeah,
but it all just looks a bit.
Yeah.
Like I said, a bit of like a hot mess at the end of the game. It's just it's not visually appealing to me at all.
No.
However, there's nothing completely egregious. Setup and teardown's fairly easy.
Yep.
Fairly quick. So
once you fished out the only tokens that are relevant to your player.
So yeah, I mean, I settle on a 5 for this.
I gave it a 4.
Yeah, I would have gone.
The insert really drives me bonkers.
I would have gone lower, but I think some of that is just my personal colour scheme taste, so I didn't go too hard on it because I know some people like pastel colours. It's just me. But yeah, I settled on a 5 for it.
Okay.
All right.
So next up then we have complexity. So as always, this isn't about how complex a game is or isn't, but how well the rules serve the nature of the game. Also includes things like how much we argue about the rules, and analysis paralysis if you are like me and suffer from that. So I would say that I see that there is an opportunity for depth within this game.
I'm not so sure I do.
I'm being generous here. I see that there are opportunities for a little bit of depth. So, for example, I can see that you have almost filled up 2 of your tracks and therefore you're just looking for one more card. I'm probably not going to place this card here and try and bait you into taking something else, leaving what I want free, or I'm just going to take something just to screw up your turn. But realistically, I mean...
those opportunities are few and far between.
They really are few and far between.
I think there is a catastrophic lack of depth to this game. There is very little tactical nous to it. And failing the tactical nous, there's not enough meat on the bones here to provide randomness.
So for example, if you had cards that allowed you to do special functions or stuff,
things,
you do. So you have one, if this card is connected by a tram line, cable car, you get 4 workers out of it. Meh.
They're really like simple and rote kind of. There's nothing sort of special about any of it, and I think I would have less of a problem with it if it wasn't so very fiddly. And there's an element of the rules around the contracts, which actually, like, I must have reread that section in the rules more times than I read anything in something like Ark Nova, and I don't know why. I found it really difficult to get my head around, and the little fiddly bits that don't really serve anything, but they don't serve anything. They don't really add anything, and they don't add any tactical nous. With the contracts, that mechanism never gets going far enough to actually really have much of an impact on the game. I understand why it's there, but they could have done so much more with it.
So we've talked about it. I mean, we've talked about rule changes that might make it add a bit more depth. I don't think any of them would work. You disagree? But, I think, again, when you have to start like fiddling with rules in order to make it more...
I mean, if you want to start house ruling something almost immediately, and we very rarely, if ever, do that.
And if we have house rules, they're usually about fun narrative rather than anything else. They don't change the actual play of the game.
But this is the first game I come across. I was like, maybe. And I don't think... the classic thing about this category is how well does the complexity serve the gameplay. The complexity kind of ruins the gameplay, but because there's A, not enough depth there, and B, it's not simple enough to be kind of okay, we can play around the table with the family.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm not gonna bash people that like city planning and stuff. But the medium, like the actual thing, is not particularly inspiring to me.
Yeah, I mean that's the theme, and that's
the theme.
That's not different. That's not really this, but
well, no, but it is. But again, I think So, for example, people might find planted quite simple, and but I'm really into it because I like the theme.
Yeah, well, it's the whole like theme can carry you through some sins that a game may make.
Exactly. I don't know that even the most avid fan of San Francisco cable cars or architectural planning would particularly.
Yeah, I mean, if you flip that on this head,
redeeming.
if you flip that on its head, if this was about, I don't know, dragons driving fast and the furious cars in a amazing fantasy backdrop, I don't think you'd like the game anymore.
No.
I don't think the theme's got anything to do with
Although, I mean, game developers out there, just give it a try.
Give it a whirl.
I will be your beta tester.
No, I don't. I mean, I'm not crazy about the theme, but then I've played lots of games where the theme doesn't really matter to me, and I still enjoy it massively. I don't think the theme is what's at fault here. I think I think it's definitely the actual rule set and the game itself.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't think the complexity serves the gameplay very well at all. So I've given it a 3.
Yeah, I gave it a 4.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay. So on to shelf life and value for money.
So what's the price point?
It varies, but it's somewhere between 20 and 30 quid, depending on, I don't know, the wins and what people are selling for.
30 quid is an absolute rip-off. No way
Yes, I would agree.
would I pay £30 for this. £20...
I think 20 is a reasonable price point for it myself. Yep. Just looking purely at what's in the box, it's a 20 quid game.
Yeah.
I'd even say up to 25 for a better game. I wouldn't have any issue paying at all.
Yeah.
I think value for money, just purely what it costs and what you get in the box, fair enough.
In terms of components, you mean?
Yeah, in terms of components.
I mean, in terms of replayability, this is a nice warm-up game.
Yeah, I mean, if it was any good, but yeah.
Well, yeah. I think that the hard thing is, isn't it? Like, if it's not been clear up to this point, we probably aren't massive fans of this.
No.
So therefore, is there a huge amount of replayability for us? No.
I don't think there is any way.
Yeah.
I think objectively, I don't think it has enough depth that anyone would want to bring this out more than a handful of times.
Yeah. I'm inclined to agree. I think in board gaming groups, for example, where you've got like a larger collection of people, again, if you want a warm-up game, I think it's absolutely fine. But then am I paying 30 quid for that? Absolutely not. Am I paying 25 quid for that? Probably not. There are other better...
And I think that's kind of my point with this. If anybody is bringing this out week after week, I want to kind of grab them by the lapels and tell them to play more games.
Grab them by the what?
Lapels.
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 Labels.
Labels? I've only ever read it. I'm trying to hide behind my African pronunciation here, but it's not going to work, is it?
No, it's not. It's not. No.
I just said that wrong.
Lapels.
Well, whatever. Okay. I mean, English is not my first language. It is.
Oh, go on. Stop speaking.
Yeah, anyway, back on track. Let's get back on the cable car rails. Tram
lines.
I would just say, no shade, but you probably need to play more games because there's probably 100 games that fit that 20-minute mark that are better than this.
Yes.
That will get the juices flowing, that are fairly easy. I mean, I can think of a handful off the top of my head looking at our shelf. You know what I mean? It's just like... I just don't know why you'd bring this out in front of anything else. And I think anybody who plays a fair amount of board games is going to get very bored with this very, very quickly.
Yes.
And
I mean, we did.
Yeah, well, I think we were bored at the second time we played it. But I think its shelf life is dreadful. Yeah. I think there's one-shot legacy games that probably give you more fun than this. So I've gone for 2.
So I kind of wanted to temper my scoring on the basis that the theme is not appealing to me, and I wonder that if the theme is more appealing, then perhaps I would rate it higher. So I've given it a 4.
Okay, fair enough. I think the theme thing, I think turn it on its head and imagine this with a theme that you did like. I mean, you might, but I can't see you actually
you give me Castle Dragons on, I'm probably going to be happy.
Okay, fair enough. But no, I think this is completely theme independent for me.
Okay.
All right. So I think we probably alluded to this quite a few times already, but is it any fun?
Yeah, so I couldn't score it a 0. That felt very mean to score it a 0.
Yeah, no, I haven't gone that low. There are little dribs and drabs of fun.
There are times when I've really sabotaged your move, and I've had that moment of, haha, gotcha. But again, it's how invested am I in the game? How it doesn't Yeah, and I'm not really.
Yeah, no, there's been a couple of moments I've been like, yeah, all right, that was quite fun, and there's odd moments of satisfaction, particularly around cable cars where you manage to link up a whole network. But I think a lot of it is tempered by how random the draws of the cards are. That it's very difficult to have any sort of strategy because you're constantly reacting to whatever's being presented at you.
And what really sucks is that, you can be holding out, trying to build a little bit of strategy, try and get something really good, and then I've pulled out a card and you just completely decimated that because I can't claim the card that I've just drawn out.
Yeah, it's all situational randomness.
It's so situational, and it's so luck based that there's that smattering, though, I think, of a false smattering of strategy.
Yeah, I don't think
it feels
it's really
like
there.
You should be more strategic than you actually
but
can.
You can't be because you. And I think it's one of its massive detriments is the restrictiveness of card placement. So not only are you dealing with this random marketplace. So people would say, oh, well, what's the difference between that and Carcassonne where you're drawing a random tile? Yeah. The difference is you can only place those cards in the right row, but also on the leftmost thing.
What we haven't talked about is you can just trash cards. So if you drew a lane of 3 cards, you could actually only place one of those if that's what you wanted. You could trash the others, whether you've got space on your board for it or not.
Yeah, but again, it's a bit of a race to fill your board up. So if you start doing that and the other person just goes, oh, well, you're trashing cards, I'm just going to fill my board up. And they will get more points because of that.
Yeah.
And I think the value of the points is so high. There's so few points to be had. The games tend to be somewhere between the region of 0 and 15 victory points, as an example. So points are really hard to come by, and 1 point is worth a lot. So if you dally about and your opponent decides not to, you've lost immediately.
Which is what I tried one time, and that did not work for me.
There's no room to do that. There's no room to be strategic. Which makes the game just feel like this perfunctory, I'm drawing a card, placing a card, drawing a card, placing a card.
And let's just see where that ends up.
Just see where that ends up. You can't have a strategy because it will just go out the window because somebody's taken all the cards you need on that turn simply because it's their turn. Or they're not flopping like you need them to.
The other point as well is that you obviously are time limited in terms of the number of skyscrapers that come out. So at 2 players, you only have the option of having 6. And as soon as that final foundation has been taken,
drawn. It's not even taken.
You can't even take it off the board.
The game ends immediately.
The game ends. Yeah. So again, you can't. And we've had ones where just out of luck of the draw, you get like 3 in one, in a very short space of time. Well, you know that your game's up. It's going to be very quickly.
We had a game end in I think it was about 6 or 7 minutes because we just drew all the skyscrapers. That was game over. Nobody had really got anything vaguely going. It was just like, oh, game's over, fine, fair enough, boom, done. So all of this is anti-fun, in my opinion. There's no satisfaction to be had there because there's no way to coherently pull off any sort of strategic move. Yeah.
Whilst feeling like it is actually quite strategic, and whilst feeling like you could have strategic manoeuvres, but actually you don't. Not really.
Or the depth's just not there.
Yeah.
So no, it has its odd moments of fun, but in overall, I've given it a 3.
So I gave it a 2.
Fair enough. Okay. So we tally up our scores and average them out, and that ends us on an overall rating of 3. So, not to beat around the bush, a bit of a stinker, this one.
Yep.
I think it's fair to say that I don't hate this game in a way that it doesn't make me angry. I just think it's a complete non-entity.
Yeah.
And I think our scoring criteria is quite harsh on games that are just complete non-entities because there's just nothing there that is positive to say about it. It's not something that I'm like, oh God, I hate that game.
It's just blah.
It's just a nothing burger of a game. All right.
Right, so let's then talk about how it plays at 2.
Yes, indeed.
So under our first category is table talks. That includes things like getting to know you and how much conversation and discourse you can have.
Yeah, this, to continue, unfortunately, the theme, this sucks for table talk. I think it's the most silent game we have, and that includes the crew.
But also, so My first thought is it's a very solitaire-esque kind of game.
Yeah.
But if I compare it to something like Mystic Vale, which we've also reviewed, which was designed to be a
Solitaire that you play together.
a competitive solitaire type game, this still has even less communication.
Yeah,
because at least you have to kind of like explain what it is that you're doing and how you've suddenly got like 15,000 mana to spend. This, it's just...
And it just doesn't... It's very rapid and it doesn't stop, and there's no reason to converse at all during it. You're just doing things, and the mechanics of you doing things explains everything that needs to be explained.
Yeah.
You could play with somebody who didn't speak a word of English.
But that's probably, and that could be a real
advantage
could be a
plus.
For some people.
Yeah, but we include getting to know you in this.
Yeah.
And it is a massive detriment. We do not say a word during games of this.
No.
Not a single word. Mostly because the pace of the game and the flow of the game just doesn't allow for that.
Yeah.
And there's no reason for it. There's no reason to converse. There's no reason to talk through anything.
Yeah. I think probably the most I said to you in the last game we played was, actually don't bother taking a bank contract because I'm just about to take this way.
Yeah, I'm about to
nullify
this vaguely pointless mechanism because I'm going to take a turn now.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is dreadful for table talk. It is absolutely dreadful. If you ever wanted to scare first date away and just play something with cable cars and not talk to them, this would be great for that.
Yeah, I mean...
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, no, don't do it, guys.
Don't do
other
it.
games to play with your date.
Unless maybe they're really into like city planning and San Francisco.
Yeah, maybe.
Oh, there's nothing really about San Francisco that harkens me to this either. So
no, just a city.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. So I gave it a 2.
Yeah, I also gave it a 2.
Yeah.
Probably not the most conversational game.
No, it is not.
All right, well let's then move on to competitiveness. I think the fundamental problem is, we've already talked about the lack of depth.
Yeah, we have, yeah.
So the thing is, how competitive can you be when, you haven't got an awful lot of strategic depth to it? Because it's not me outfoxing you or playing spectacular moves. And in fact, when you've stolen the Master Builder token off me, I'm like, oh, well done you. And I mean, I don't normally congratulate you when you beat me. I'm like, oh, well done you.
Yeah, I think a lot of it comes from not enjoying the game. Okay, so I have to take that. There's that big elephant in the room. It's like, it's not competitive for us because we don't enjoy the game. And I'm trying very hard not to do it a disservice just because I don't like the game. I'm trying to take a step away from that and go, could this be competitive? If you, for some reason, all of the planets aligned on this for you and you found this really, really cool, would the thing I always go to in this category is, do you feel satisfied if you win? Is it a satisfying game to win? And beat somebody else in?
I mean, in all fairness, again...
Kinda?
Yeah, our last game, I do think, was really quite close. We were quite even Stevens all the way through.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, it's one category that I don't perhaps feel as massively negative about as a lot of the other ones. I think if you everything else we've set aside, if all of that for you was wrong and this sounds like your bag, and there's 2 of you or more, then it could potentially be a fairly competitive game for you. It is not for me, but I'm trying to step outside of that a little bit.
Yeah, I also think how competitive can push your luck. Well, not even push your luck, because it's not push your luck, it's how competitive are luck-based games.
Yeah, I don't think the strategic depth is there for me anyway to make it satisfying to win.
And therefore I think probably not. I wonder if actually... Yeah, no, it's not.
Anyway, I mean, yeah, I wasn't as down on this because I see there are moments of it where, you are trying, despite the randomness, to beat the other person. I settled on a 4 in the end.
No, so I gave it a 2, mainly because I congratulated you for oh, well done. I just think that's not how a competitive game should be.
No, but I mean, your level of do not care with this is quite spectacular.
Yeah, so we also had one game that we got halfway through and I was like, ow, I don't care anymore. Can we just put it away? I just don't care.
After 10 minutes, by the way, this is not a 2-hour slog.
But I also would point out you'd half filled up your board and I hadn't placed any cards because I just couldn't be asked.
Yeah.
None of them were what I wanted.
Couldn't
So
be
I was
bothered
like,
building. Yeah, okay. But yeah, I settled on a 4 for this.
yeah, and also I gave it a 2.
Okay.
And then our final rating scale is scalability. So, would more people make this better?
It's hard to conceptualize, really. I can't see how it would improve it massively. However, I imagine the contracts system would be slightly more interesting if you have 4 people around the table.
Yeah, so I think what you would see is it would make it a lot more dynamic. So I think if one person which has happened to us, where you've been lucky with the cards that have been drawn and you've been able to take all those best cards because I'm the one that's drawing all the good cards, I think that would balance it to a certain extent. And I think for that reason I'd be quite interested to see it playing at more people.
Yeah.
I think it would be better. However, I do also worry that what would happen is one person would fall behind very, very quickly and would really struggle.
You'd almost have a runaway loser problem, not a runaway leader one, but somebody just gets iced out immediately kind of thing. Yeah, but I'd have to see it in action to make but I can theorise that would be the case.
Yeah. I do think it would change gameplay quite a lot, and I think it would make it faster in some ways.
I think
than
you'd
it
have much
already
bigger
is.
stacks.
Yeah.
But there also might be a bit more strategic depth. Because one of the things that we didn't mention is when you play with more people, you have more possible lanes. So you can have up to 5 lanes when you play with four people.
So in the marketplace.
Yeah, in the marketplace, which may add a little bit more variety off the marketplace being there, which allows you to pick and choose a little bit more.
And also think about where you place cards. So again, thinking about, sabotaging other people's turns or preventing them from taking actions.
So there might be a bit more to it there.
Yeah.
And I do feel like there would be. Also, games will probably go on a bit longer because you need more foundation tokens.
But I mean, realistically, it's not going to go on to 45 minutes.
No,
an hour.
no, it's not.
It's still going to be done within half an hour.
I didn't mean that in a negative sense. I actually meant it in a positive sense because of the game. I don't think the game would end as prematurely with the foundations coming out.
Yeah, so I think, yes,
it'd be less
that's
likely
a really good point.
to. Yeah.
I often feel like there is that race and, it does end
All
prematurely.
but one of our games have ended from too many foundations coming out. All but one, and we've played a fair few. So anything that makes that more or less likely, because I don't like immediate game end conditions. I don't think
I like to be able to pull the trigger.
Yeah. I have gone with a 4 on this one.
So I went. Oh, I've scored it the wrong way round.
Upside down scoring.
I've done upside down scoring, so I would have. So I scored it a 6, but that's the upside.
You actually mean a 4.
But I actually mean a 4.
Okay, fair enough.
You'd think after this long I'd know our own scoring criterion.
Everything's a journey. So that gives us a 2-player rating of 3 as well.
So basically, university shit. Don't pick this up.
Just
don't buy it.
Just a stamp with an actual poo emoji on it, really. It is a bit of a stinker. Not a fan. I don't see why anybody would be, but that's why objective opinions are, objective opinions. But yeah, from us here aboard with each other, we would say avoid.
Yeah.
Right. Well, on that terribly positive note, thank you very, very much for joining us. Being quite a short, sharp on this time round. I don't know if anybody's noticed, but we're trying to have a bit of a pattern with these, where we put out something very, very meaty and weighty, and then intersperse it with something a little lighter each month and go around. And we also got our specials on sort of out of print or not really 2-player games or 3-player games or whatever coming out on a regular basis. I think we've agreed to try and get those out every quarter. We'll see how many we do. But yeah, thank you very much again for joining us, and until next time, be good to each other and play lots of board games.